This is the E-commerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello, and welcome to the E-commerce Braintrust podcast. I'm Julie Spear, Head of Retail Marketplace Services at Acadia, alongside my co-host, Jordan Ripley, Director of Account Management. And today we're getting into a juicy topic, programmatic media buying via Amazon DSP, or a DSP, and the many ways of doing so. If you've ever wondered about how you can get started and make the most of a DSP, and how you can access the right inventory, this is the episode that will break it all down and give you the info you need. So to do that, we've brought two of our favorite go-to experts for this conversation onto the podcast. We've got Ross Walker, our Director of Retail Media, and Danilo, a Senior Retail Media Manager here at Acadia. With that, Ross, Danilo, welcome. Glad to have you back on the show.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to start with brass tacks. Let's just start with the basics.
Go for it.
Okay. That's where I often start at the basics. Many of the brands that we speak to know of a DSP and understand it at a high level, but the first barrier can often be, if they're not already leveraging a DSP, figuring out how to access the platform. So truly the basics. There are a few paths to accessing DSP, and there have been changes in the past few months. Can you walk us through the different access models and what the difference is between like self-service and managed service and partnerships and all the potpourri of options that brands have to accessing a DSP?
Yeah, it is. It's quite a rigmarole of options, honestly. I think the most important one to start with is, what many people think of when they think of Amazon DSP is the managed service by Amazon. So like that has traditionally been the first and the only way to get access to Amazon's ad tech here for display, both on-site and off. And so that's working directly with Amazon. They're doing the buying for you. They're advising you on the strategy. And it's very white glove. Like you don't really have access to anything. You're beholden to them completely. On the flip side of that, you have the ability to work with an agency or a tech partner that has access to a DSP seat, like Acadia, for example. So we started out having a DSP seat that we had access to through Amazon because of the partners that we had and because of our expertise. And then we were able to create ad campaigns for our brands and manage them self-service. So that was you don't have to go through Amazon for that at all. And then Danilo, we have one more seat here, one more option here, and it's owning and operating your own seat in-house. So some brands will be of a scale and a size that, they're able to get access to their own seat, or they're able to purchase a seat through a DSP reseller like Acadia. So you can actually be the owner of your DSP access all for end to end.
And this has changed a bit over time, Ross, right? Like you managed to kind of began with managed services. There was this introduction of the reseller concept. Like, can you talk a little bit of like the sort of evolution of ADSP access between those options?
Yeah, I think that's it's like very much an evolution from, like a really closed walled in garden, where the UI wasn't very well developed. The education and training materials weren't very well developed. Even the like service offering was like really arcane, and you had to be like an absolute gremlin to understand how to like get in the guts and like make this thing work appropriately. Amazon has worked really, really hard to make it very friendly on the front end for agencies and for brands to be able to do their own programmatic media buying. And that's a reflection of their vision and the development of their ad tech platform overall, right? So they want to democratize it. They want more people to be able to like point and click and start doing programmatic advertising through their system. But that evolution takes time. It takes time and it takes expertise to go from being a nuts and bolts programmatic display platform to being, something that's as easy to use as Amazon ads in general.
Yeah. And there's like a fundamental juxtaposition here, which is you mentioned the front end getting easier, more accessible, more ways to access it, whether that's through a reseller, whether that's through a partner, whether that's through managed services. But at the same time, I feel like the supply side of the business has grown exponentially, the ways of buying inventory, which we'll go into in depth on this episode. But it's like, you have this issue of like anybody can now access it more or less. There's some guardrails around that. It's easier to click buttons on it, but then there's like 1,000 different things that those buttons can then do. So would love to get your sense of like, and Danilo, maybe this is a question for you, the kind of crawl, walk, run. Like, I just got access to this thing. There's some buttons I can push. Like, what do I start with? And then how does that evolve over time?
Yeah. So starting with the decision between the managed service or the self-service, that go a lot about how much control and support that brand wants to have, right? And also when deciding if they want self-service, if they want that in-house to have it managed internally, it would only make sense if they actually have a team of operators dedicated to that, right? That would have the capability to do those optimizations, creative testing, pacing every week, or work with an agency such as we do, right? And then within those several buttons and several ways of purchasing, we have many ways, and then it becomes a bit complex, right? Then thinking of this crawl, walk, run model, on the crawl stage, there's the open auction, right, which is the programmatic buy, the standard one, which is flexible, lower barriers, right? It's perfect to learn how bidding, pacing, audience targeting behaves, how your account will behave as well, right? Then in this walk phase, it's where the off-the-shelf deals coming, right? This is what Amazon calls the private auctions, or as we call it, the PAs. They have pre-curated bundles, premium inventory, more brand-safe environments too. And they have floor pricing, so there's a bit of more control on the spend, and also very easy to activate. Finally, on this running phase, would be going to those custom deals, preferred deals, PDs, programmatic guarantees, the PGs, which are negotiating inventory directly or with Amazon Supply's desk team. And this would be perfect for meeting specific goals. Let's say, for example, guaranteed reach for Prime Day, or as we had opportunity recently presented to us to lock in streaming TV inventory during the Winter Olympics game, right? So each step gives a bit more control and stability. They will have other complexities added to it as well. But yeah, they have floor pricing, fixed CPMs, guaranteed reach, different characteristics. So it will also require more planning and data to back those decisions.
Is it fair to say like the reason most brands start with open auction on DSP, that like it's the closest to PPC in terms of like I'm bidding on things, I like access some inventory and audiences, versus like the more programmatic? Like, is that an oversimplification, or is that like corollary what tends to lead to that as the starting step?
I think that it has to do with the way Amazon, like if you do the Amazon learning courses, like it sort of starts with a big heavy focus on the open auction. If you look at the way the UI is set up, the open auction stuff is all front and center first.
You start here.
You start here. Start here.
Yeah. Hey, dummy. Clear someone.
And like the deal stuff is way more arcane. Like, one, it's very hard to visualize what the hell it is you're buying. Two, it's very hard to like get in and understand what like some of the custom deals look like. Because when you get into that UI, it's just a giant 1,000-page long index of available deals. And you're like, where do I even start with this? Like, I can't just, with audiences, it feels very real, like keywords, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I know I'm in market for, I'm selling water bottles. Great. I'll start with who's in market for water bottles. That is like a good, easy starting point. Custom deals, you're going up a level in abstraction.
So on that, how do you align the deals that you're targeting, the deals that you're going for, with brand goals? What's the thought process behind that?
Yeah. So usually brands will start seeing some diminishing returns as well on the open auction, right? If they have a good settings on frequency, let's say, they'll start to see that the delivery will start to tank over time. They already reached the core audiences. Or if they don't have the frequency, the performance will start to tank. And it's the time when the brand should see, oh, we need incremental inventory. We need more premium inventory. So I also like to think of low-hanging fruits here. It's not only more similar to sponsor ads, but tends to be the low-hanging fruits, right? The views retargeting, for example, that you have on the programmatic buy, and those easy to set up custom audiences, while those ad deals tend to be more incremental reach, premium inventory, and as Ross said, an extra level of abstract as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that framing because it's a question of like, how much incremental inventory do I need? I love that. Why do I love that framing? Because you have to think about, the full opportunity size. To use that example that I used before, if I'm just trying to sell water bottles, the full scope of everyone that I can hit who's in market for water bottles, I might be able to reach like 80, 70 or 80% of them just through the open auction. But how do I get to that last 20%? Well, to get to like the next 20%, I probably need to use some deals that are on inventory that aren't accessible via the open auction. And then if I want to hit that final 5 to 10%, I need to get some really premium inventory that's not even available in the open deal market. And so how valuable is it for a brand to hit 100% penetration? That's when not every brand, most brands who are just getting started aren't really concerned about getting 100% penetration. They want to hit, a reasonable amount of their core audience, and they're more focused on the outcomes. So is buying of that inventory delivering the incremental sales or the incremental traffic that I'm looking for? And they're very rarely needing to go and get that last 20, 30, 40% of reach that's out there.
Right. So an extension of brand maturity. If you're a category leader and you need to establish dominance in every media placement, that's where those sort of custom deals. But if you're a challenger brand, there's a lot of opportunity early with open auction and then scaling from there.
Mm-hmm. There's also price. It's also price too. Sure. So Danilo had mentioned this, but the open auction, you can get rock bottom CPMs. You can pay very little for a huge amount of impressions. Once you start getting into deals, now there's a minimum $5, $10, $12 CPM floor. So that's the baseline amount that you have to buy. For a guaranteed deal, it's okay, now I'm actually committing, X thousands of dollars to access a specific Prime Video TV slot or to access a specific placement on, New York Times Magazine or something like that. There's a risk reward to making those kinds of investments that most brands aren't starting with. And that's why it's the last thing that a lot of brands come to. So you have to be quite mature, to your point, to want to go after that.
Right. And I mean, Danilo, you mentioned something that's sort of working with the supply desk team on these. When we talk about that sort of third and final bucket of, you have your open auction, you have your guaranteed deals, and then you have this nebulous custom. But how does that actually flow out in practice where it's I have these goals, I can select anything feasibly for this brand? What is our role in that process? What is the role of Amazon in that process? How did those actually get built?
Yeah. So each brand will have, of course, different audiences, different inventory where they would resonate more. Let's say a sports brand that I was saying, we had this opportunity of featuring and locking in inventory for the Winter Olympics, right? Mm-hmm. How valuable is that? That would come through a programmatic guaranteed, which has, as Ross also mentioned, a fixed pricing. You need to commit ahead of time with a sizable budget. So all of that goes into planning. It's where also things start to fade a little bit more with the traditional marketing. And there's a lot of, let's say, a leap of faith as well on the performance and the metrics that will get out of that, right? So definitely it needs a lot of maturity. It needs as well that the low-hanging fruits have been exhausted there. That would be my recommendation at least. Of course, there's always individual opportunities that are worth the shot. And yeah, so a lot of things that need to come into play. And I like to think of the deals in many cases, not so much the private auction ones that are off the shelf, but the PDs and the PGs, programmatic guaranteed and preferred deals, as more awareness plays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would add to that, for some of the brands where we've run custom deals, it's because we have, run a lot. We've got the groundwork laid already. So they have a really good full funnel DSP strategy. We had tested the open auction or we tested some core deals that were available, programmatic deals for streaming inventory. And the brand was ready to try something new. So, we worked with the supply desk team with Amazon to say, well, this is the brand. Here are their core audiences, right? Here's their core product category. Can you go out and find the inventory where those people are likely to be? So we for a hair care brand, we said like hairspray is like really important for them. So the supply desk team came back to us and said, all right, you actually want to have this basket of NBC, CBS, like Discovery, this group, this available selection of supply that we've curated for you has a very high overlap with your core in-market audience. And so they create that for us. And, we ran ads on that supply. And we found, year over year that we actually had better engagement metrics because the people that we were targeting was really relevant. The place where we were targeting them was really relevant. So that supply deal that they came with was actually really valuable. And then the creative was really good too. So we actually used like the interactive creative that really like helped people like click on their TV while they were watching the programming. So all those things together came together because we had laid the groundwork. We'd done the open auction stuff. We tried the programmatic deals, and now they were ready to like test, the next incremental available inventory option.
Yeah, and to add to that, like custom deals also really depend on having a strong relationship with this Amazon supply desk team. At least that's from our experience. When you have this relationship, you're able to convey like what's the best type of audience, the best inventory for your brand. And also you get presented opportunities that probably other brands would not get.
So there have been a lot of updates over the past 6 months or so relative to ADSP, and one of them was rolled out at Unbox last month for Project Deal Builder. It plugs directly into Inventory Hub. Can you talk us through what exactly it is and how it kind of fits into this broader scope of deal types?
Yeah, this is a pretty new one. It's in closed beta right now. Like we don't have access to this yet. We haven't had a chance to do too much work here overall, but the core idea is in line with what Amazon is trying to do broadly. They're trying to make accessing the full scope of their capabilities easier for brands. They're trying to make it less esoteric, require fewer intermediaries, like so you don't have to go to like a supply desk team or something like that to get access. And the core goal is to be able to self-serve, create custom deals that are based on the type of audience that matters to your brand. And you can have those deals negotiated for you through this deal builder in a way that previously required a lot of actual like back and forth with the specific publishers. So it should, in theory, make it easier to do streaming TV, specific deal flow, but we don't know exactly what it looks like yet.
Okay, so we'll have a follow-up episode where we dig into that. And I'm curious about how like the relevance factor plays in and how that actually comes to life when we do get to access it and try it. It's not just about the reach, the relevance of the audience.
Yeah, like Ross said, there's a lot of speculation too. We don't know how it will play out, but it seems that it goes into everything that Amazon has been doing, right, to make it DSP more democratic, more accessible for smaller brands, to avoid even that need of very good relationship with the supply desk, which will always be there, always have its value, of course, but it will make a little bit easier for those smaller brands. But let's see.
Yeah. I also wonder another thing that they're trying to do here is if I try and make this very real, if I have a hair care brand and this hair care brand wants to advertise on, I don't know, like, oh gosh, I'm trying to not be reductive.
You were going to say Bravo and then you saw Julie's face.
Yeah. They really want to own some specific Bravo inventory or like Housewives of Atlanta. I don't know, like something related to big hair. I don't know. Trying to not be reductive.
Just digging deeper into it.
Yeah, right. But
it's just my turn.
Just imagine you have that. But if you have this idea, if you have this goal in mind, it's hard to make that come true in the traditional media buying world. Like, who do I talk to? Where do I get access to that supply? Oh, if I go and call Bravo, they have no interest in talking to me. In theory, this should make it a lot easier for a brand to be like, this is the kind of private deal that I want to get access to. I'm hoping that this will make it a lot easier for brands.
Yeah. I mean, I think from the start of the episode, at least in hearing the two of you describe it, the leaps from the crawl to the walk to the run are fairly substantial as they currently exist. And these sorts of features ideally start to flatten the space between crawl and run. Whether that flattening actually happens successfully, I feel like is what we all, remain to be seen here. Last thought, though, is staying on the theme of an unboxed and a lot of the things that came out of that. We had a conversation on a prior episode with Chris Canetta, who oversees their ADSP supply. And, one of these guiding lights that we've talked on a lot is this idea that, breadth and depth of the supply has exploded, but at the same time, the transparency and measurement around that, the goal is to make it equivalent across all types of buying, right? And AMC can be the great unifier of all these, retail signals and supply side buys. I'm wondering though, in experience, usually there's this lofty goal and then there's a steady march towards that lofty goal. And I'm curious, Ross and Danilo, when you're buying, I imagine there's a pretty good variance of transparency, data availability, data granularity. So when you think about talking to brands and the extent that they want to see, how much did this drive sales immediately for me versus how much is this awareness play and I'm good with some reach numbers and leave it at that. How do you think about that spectrum when you go to buy media?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if we were to map it, Open Auction would definitely sit at the top for transparency.
Okay.
You get full reporting, audience insights. You can easily connect that everything to AMC, right? It's already connected, even work with that data. Private auctions would come next. You still get the performance data, a little bit less visibility on which publishers and placements it delivered. And then it comes preferred deals, programmatic guarantee, PGs, right? They give the least granularity. You're buying a fixed block, right, of inventory. So while they are great for reach, they are a lot harder for measurement. That's why I was saying too that it's a lot more similar to traditional TV ads, for example, right? It's a bit of a leap of faith in a lot of those metrics. So of course, there are several ways and tactics that we use to measure the uplifts, and Amazon too have brand lift studies, right, to see those causal impacts. And that's also part of the importance of working with experienced operators, right? So if the incrementality is the goal, you would need to complement that with AMC analysis, right? Dark markets for testing, brand lift studies to really understand the incrementality of the impact. So in the end, each model has its place, right? The key, I would say, is balancing scale, transparency, depending on what the brand is trying to learn and achieve.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, let's end the conversation with your favorites. You work with a number of brands. You're in the trenches with ADSP. Are there types of buys that you find yourself getting particularly excited about, or is it brand by brand, or is it really just some tried and true supply or strategies that you find yourself tapping into more consistently?
Oh, I love that. So for me, it's when you can combine DSP's precision, right, with that creativity, nice ads. So private auctions with retargeting with programmatic buy, open auction, and custom display ads, nice creatives, right? Also love preferred deals for streaming TV. They have that fixed CPM, clean inventory, then also layering retargeting with open auction to close the loop, right? It's that mix that gives you both control and discovery that you get only from also using deals. And reach would be deals, efficiency would be the auctions. So and with AMC data, it's a great combination.
How did we get to this point in the conversation before AMC was uttered?
We're all on the buying side right now.
Yes. Ross, how about you? What gets you excited?
I was, a pretty diehard open auction fan for most of my DSP career because of its efficiency and because of the ease of access and because of how easy it was to sort of say to brands this is who we're going after. This overlap of people is who we're going after. And don't worry about where they are because who we're targeting matters and the result matters. Now I'm much, much more interested in talking about the specific placements and also the some of the custom deals that Amazon has that they provide, which are, not available on other DSPs, which I think are really cool. So we ran one, for example, recently for one of our brands that targeted the subset of people who purchased from like premium beauty stores on Amazon. So, this is a type of deal that was layering in some like interesting behaviors on top of just being cool supply. So, now I'm very interested in that level. The sort of like next tier, the final frontier, we've started to get into more of that open inventory testing. So we were able to participate in a beta earlier this year for the new Roku inventory. And I'm really excited to potentially to get access to the Netflix inventory next year as well. We were able to get access to Prime Video inventory. We were one of the first agencies to be able to get access to Prime Video inventory. That was awesome, a few years ago. And we want to stay on the forefront of that as much as possible. So as Amazon adds the new cool placements, that's where I want to test.
Always on the edge. Always on the edge. Well, Danilo, Ross, this was great. Thank you so much for joining us today and crawling, walking, and running us through DSP.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.